here we go on a Monday. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we are live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. 1 hour from now, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. Packed today, Peter Schrager stops by this hour. All sorts of NFL stuff. Week 2 of the NFL will be over after tonight. Jimmy G playing for the 49ers. Joy, how are you?
I'm great. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. You know, it wasn't long ago. My wife used to be in the restaurant business, and her dad owned a restaurant for years. And so, you know, we'll play a game. We go to new restaurants all the time. You know, every month or so, we'll go to a new restaurant, and she'll be like, not going to work, going to work. And she's been great. I've joked about this before. She's never been wrong. She can tell if it's a disaster. But even I can tell sometimes, because restaurants are a public business, right? You walk in, you see the menu, you see the wait staff, you see the real estate. So it wasn't long ago. It was about 2 months ago. I walked into a restaurant with my wife. And I said within 3 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is a disaster. The menu, it said vegetarian on the menu, but they had chicken. The real estate was so large, there was no intimacy. Everything echoed. There was no urgency for the wait staff. You could just walk in. They had a corner lot, so there was too much sun in the building, so it was hot, and their air conditioning wasn't good enough. And again, they had vegetarian on the plastered all over the menu, but there was chicken all over the menu. So I told my wife, I'm like, you know, I'm not a restaurateur, but they don't have any direction. She's like, yeah, this will be out of service here in the next couple of months, depending on how much money Dad gave the kids. And sure enough, a couple months in, it was done. The NFL, similarly, is a public business. You can watch practices. You watch games. You watch the press conferences. You can see the uniforms. You know, they may do things behind the scenes, but there's so much analyzation now, Twitter, social media, cable TV. You can break down even what they're doing in rooms you can't see with film. The Raiders are a poorly run restaurant. I mean, think about this thing. So John Gruden takes it over and immediately gets rid of two very highly productive and low-maintenance stars. Khalil Mack's never in trouble. Amari Cooper's perfect. He's the opposite of a diva receiver. They get rid of stars. So the message from the restaurant is, we do not have star dishes. Then they go out and get Antonio Brown. What are you telling me as a locker room? What are you telling me as a player, as a coach, as a scout, as a consumer, as a fan? Then they say, high character matters. So they go in the NFL draft, and they actually reach for about 3 players. Good players, not great. They overdrafted them. But they told us it was due to character. Then maybe you shouldn't acquire Vontaze Burfict and Richie Incognito. They don't know what they're doing. You know what this feels like? It feels like they gave power to a guy that had been out of the league for 10 years, and when he wakes up in the morning, some have said this about our current president, whatever mood he's in, that's what he's doing. That's what John Gruden's doing. He didn't like stars, AB. Do some homework. I mean, make a few calls. When you're out of the league 10 years, I understand you lose some of your sources, but all you had to do was make a couple of calls. I said 2 weeks ago, I called a buddy of mine who knew Mike Tomlin. I made one call. My buddy's like, I called Tomlin. He said it was a circus. You couldn't make a call on that? Mike Mayock had been out of the league, breaking down film perhaps, but out of the league. This is the danger to giving unlimited power to somebody that's been out of a business for a decade. They don't have the sourcing. They don't have the connections they used to. You can break down film. You can be Mike Mayock. You can be John Gruden. But anybody in this league that did their homework didn't want AB. It wasn't like he had a lot of teams acquiring for him. So, and the other thing, even that offensive lineman we haven't talked about, the Trent Brown contract, they didn't know what they were doing. They bring him in, they make him the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history, and then they move him to right tackle. This is a hard cap league. We can all blame AB on this, but AB has become T.O., you know, small school guy. He's kind of volatile and anti-authority. All right, you're not going to get him to change his personality. I mean, at this age, you're not going to get me to change my personality. Listen, players are what they are. Most of our personalities, if you go to a therapist or a psychologist, are formed by about 12 years old, maybe earlier. You're not going to change them. Football coaches aren't therapists. So you can blame AB all you want, but I wouldn't have acquired him because I wouldn't be able to deal as a football coach. I'm not Fraser Crane. I'm not Dr. Laura. I'm not a trained therapist. This isn't what I do. So I would not get volatile anti-authority players. By the way, I've worked with anti-authority people. They usually leave the business and go on and open their own business. It's the way there's a lot of room in America for the anti-authority figure. The artist, the musician, the individual small business owner. I've had a lot of friends. They always say, I couldn't work in corporate America. I couldn't do it. It's too regimented. I couldn't do it. I've got good friends like that. So they don't get into it. But as long as AB can't own his own league, then you have to be very aware of what he is. They didn't do their homework. This is what happens when you hire people outside of a business, maybe on the periphery of it. They don't have the sources. Gruden wields too much power. He wakes up in the morning and says, AB, I like him. Ah! This is the restaurant that you walk in, the menu doesn't make sense, there's no urgency by the waitstaff, it's a public business, it is very easy to see. I don't even know if Mike Mayock's on the same page with John Gruden. Feels like now he's kind of cleaning up some of his mess, but he had a very, you don't see GMs in the NFL do this. He called a impromptu presser yesterday on the AB helmet issue.
AB is not here today, right? So here's the bottom line. He's upset about the helmet issue. We have supported that. We appreciate that, okay? But at this point, we've pretty much exhausted all avenues of relief. So from our perspective, it's time for him to be all in or all out.
You can blame the NFL on the helmet issue. You can blame AB. You can blame his agent. Blame whoever you want. But he is now an Oakland Raider because of a coach who has too much power, who was out of the league for a decade, just on the periphery, that didn't do his homework, and makes it up every morning when he goes to work. They're just making stuff up. It's not the way to do business. Let me shift to this. Jerry Jones is toying a little bit with Zeke. Tony Pollard's great. Alfred Morris, Hall of Famer. They're toying with Zeke a lot publicly. Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, kind of a tag team thing. They're kind of prodding Zeke, poking Zeke. They're not with Dak. It should be noted, they are not with Dak. And I think this is of the utmost respect to Dak. I think they respect Dak as a kid. They respect him as a player. Jerry Jones said this weekend, and he holds him in much higher esteem than most of us do.
A lot of people question whether Dak was one of those guys that need to be in the top tier. I've never questioned that. Okay. I don't think that there's any doubt that he's in the top level of the paid quarterbacks. There's no question in my mind about that. Now, how do we make this all fit? What can we do to have the best team around him? That's what we are trying to work on.
Now, think about this. So with Zeke, who is the best player maybe in the NFL as a position, Jerry is going out publicly saying, you know, I love Tony Pollard. I have been saying this for years. Alfred Morris gets you to a Super Bowl. But with Dak, who most of us thinks around middle of the pack, it is Jerry coming out and saying, oh, I think the world of him. I think he's amazing. I think he's fantastic. What does that tell you? It tells you ultimately that Jerry is making this decision on Dak and Zeke. He feels he can get to Zeke. He'll cave to the pressure. He's not in love with what he's doing. What it tells you is Jerry's appreciative of Dak. Do I think Dak's a great quarterback? No. Here's the way I would look at it. Much like the Raiders in the restaurant example, every time there's a quarterback contract that is signed in recent years that we all kind of feel, that's a little much. You, the public, me, the media guy, we're generally right. We didn't like Ryan Fitzpatrick Buffalo contract. We're like, that doesn't see Joe Flacco after the Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins. We didn't like any of those contracts. We were like, they can win games, but we were all right. Generally with contracts to quarterbacks, your gut feeling is right. It is. Again, it's a public business. But here's the thing with Dak and Jerry. There's two kind of contracts you can sign, whether it's you're signing a quarterback or you're buying a house with your wife or your husband. There's the pump the fist contract. We stole the house. We're going to make a fortune on this house. We got the house right next to the school for our kids. I've had a couple of those in my life, real estate transactions, where I literally You sign it, you walk out of the title company with your wife, and you're like, it's a pump the fist contract. We nailed this. We got the condo, we got the timeshare, we got the house, we got the car. You feel like you got a great deal. Okay, that's not what this is. This is the kind of contract you sign, and as you're driving home, got the keys to the new house, you're telling your wife and she's telling you, listen, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. It's close enough to the school. The house needs some work, but you know what? I'm going to work weekends, and we're going to fix this kitchen. Not every quarterback contract is a pump-your-fist deal. Matt Stafford signed with the Lions years ago. I said I would have paid him. It wasn't a, yeah, we got Matt Stafford for a song. Listen, Jimmy Garoppolo was not a pump-your-fist contract. You paid him $27.5 million. He couldn't stay healthy. There are pump-your-fist contracts, and then there are those that you're like, we're going to make it work. We're going to get Jimmy G a better offensive line. We're going to get him some weapons. We're going to make it work. And that's what this contract's going to be. Jay Glazer said this morning, I'm reading his mailbag on The Athletic. Listen, it's going to be the $30 to $32 to $33 million deal, and it's going to happen. So that's okay. You can win a lot of games with make-it-work contracts. I think Dak's ceiling's lower. I think you're going to have to let go of maybe a great corner or a great linebacker. But this is not a, we stole him. They've been doing that in New England with Tom Brady's contract. They did that at the end with Tim Duncan's contract. Seattle, by the way, is not pumping their fist on Russell Wilson's contract. It's a Pete Carroll and John Snyder go, okay, we're going to have to trade off some things. We're going to make it work contract. That's where Dallas is today. Coming up next, Jimmy Garoppolo plays tonight. It's very interesting. I want you to watch this tonight when Jimmy Garoppolo plays. There is a public narrative that we're all crossing our fingers for Garoppolo staying healthy. And if he gets hurt, it's man overboard. I'll tell you why the opposite is true. That's coming up. Plus, 45 minutes from now, Colin right, Colin wrong on a Monday. Hiring used to be really, really hard. Can you imagine having a company, you need 20 employees, and there's no internet? I mean, it's incredible. I always think about that with the cell phone. I get in my car, and I can't talk for 45 minutes. What if I have a work emergency? Well, hiring used to be hard. Multiple job sites, stacks of resumes, a review process confusing. Today, it's very easy. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/herd. They send your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. Don't stop there. Powerful matching technology scans thousands of resumes, finds people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. Applications come in, they analyze each one, spotlight the top candidates. Don't miss a great match. So effective that 4 to 5 employers who post ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate throughout the site in a day. All right, do it for free. ZipRecruiter.